AskReddit, what strange thing have you witnessed, experienced that you cannot explain? Like other people, I occasionally have very prophetic dreams. They always are about something tragic, but I'll describe my most vivid one. About 5 years ago I had a dream I was in a horrible 3-car accident with my then girlfriend and my younger brother. The car was totaled, there was smoke, my GF and my brother went to the hospital, and I died because I was pierced through the head with some sort of rod. Fast forward 2 years later, and my brother and I get a ride from girlfriend to go to a graduation party for a mutual friend. GF pulls out into an intersection. I immediately recognize everything from the dream and I flinch to the left. Everything goes black for me for a few seconds after that, but when I regain consciousness I look around and see the exact same scene as in my dream, except I lived. The car we were in was totaled. There was smoke from the other 2 cars involved and a rod that went through the windshield about 6 inches to the right of my head. It was the most intense moment of my life. Since then I have always kept track of my dreams and paid very close attention to them. A few years ago me and a bunch of friends were on a cabin trip at my friend's parents' cabin. It was in the middle of nowhere and it was late, so the road was pitch black. We were split up into 2 cars, and I was driving behind the person who knew where we were going. At some point, my friend just starts speeding up, annoying fast. I start bitching that I'm barely able to keep up. Suddenly, she takes a sharp turn down into a wooded area with only a vague trail. I try to follow, but I'm desperately trying to avoid the massive potholes in my tiny not fit for off-roading car. Meanwhile, the car in front of me is gliding down the path seemingly no problem. I flash my lights for them to slow down, but nothing. I'm pissed at this point, and am cursing my friend's name while my passengers sit in silent terror. We finally make it down to a real road, but my friend's car is nowhere to be seen. It was like it vanished out of thin air. Again, the area is pitch black, so if there was any source light we would be able to see it. We're lost as hell and try to call, but we don't have a cell signal. We drive for about 10 minutes before we reach them, find them, and are finally guided to the cabin. I mentioned to my friend about how annoyed I am that she took a dangerous off-road path without warning us and then just disappeared. She then gets a really weird look on her face and says, "What are you talking about? You guys were right behind me and then suddenly you just turned off into the woods. We had no idea where you went. We were really worried." Apparently, she had been on the road the whole time. No one knows who the truck was, where they came from, or where they went. Everyone in both cars never saw a car pull out between us or saw us get broken up. The 3 people in my car are confident that the truck we saw lead us down the woods was my friend's car. Everyone else in the other car assured us they were on the road the whole time. To this day, none of us know where that car came from or how they snuck in between 2 cars without 6 people realizing it. This is actually the weirdest thing, and call me crazy if you'd like. I went to a fair one time. For some reason my friends weren't with me, can't recall why. I noticed there were surprisingly few people there, and an abnormal amount of clowns, didn't think anything of it. Got on some ride, got one of those spiral cut potatoes. Took off after, went home, went to sleep. Next morning my friend calls me and says where I was last night because my group of friends had a hangout and no one could get a hold of me, nor did I reply. Told them I went to the fair. He asked what fair. Then I couldn't remember where it was. I just said the fair in town. He just laughed and said something to the extent of "yeah, whatever." Still have no idea where the fuck I went that night. I came out of a store one day and turned the corner to see a crow trying to read a paperback novel on a park bench. He was perched on the bench, turning pages with his beak. When he noticed me staring, he hopped away like I caught him red-handed, and took flight a moment later. Ended up getting a tattoo of a crow reading a book because the incident left such an impression on me. No one really seems to believe me, but dude, corvids are fucking smart. I figure it was either imitating a person, or trying to harvest the pages for a nest, but either way, strange experience. I was sitting in my college dorm room once when the temperature suddenly started dropping like crazy. I turned the heat up as high as it would go, but it just kept getting colder. I took out my winter clothes and started putting them on. This was like in late September, early October in New York, so it wasn't cold outside at all. I was just about to go ask for maintenance when my roommate got back from hockey practice and asked why there were so many police cars and ambulances outside. I had no idea. Later that night, we were informed a girl who lived in the dorms had died. Everyone who I've told about this says that I felt her death. I was in that same room for 3 years and it was the only time I ever had problems with the temperature. A few years ago, shortly after adopting my dog, my then girlfriend and I were getting ready to go out for food, or whatever it was. Right as we are getting ready to go out the door, our dog starts freaking out. He's losing his mind, whining, jumping at us, biting at our arms, and trying to pull us to the living room. We take a few extra seconds, calm him down, say goodbye and head out. We had a train to catch. Took all of 30-60 seconds. As we were approaching the bus stop, about 30 seconds away from the stop, a BMW comes barreling around the corner and jumps the curb exactly where we would have been standing. Had we left when we originally wanted, we would have been standing there. We never would have seen it coming. To this day I'm convinced my dog knew, and he delayed us for that reason. He's never had an outburst like that since. I had a dream when I was a teenager. We lived on the hillside overlooking the city. I was standing on our terrace just watching the world die. Water covered most of the city. What wasn't drowned was burning, pillars of smoke covered the horizon. But oddly enough it was serene. You couldn't hear screaming or chores, just cinders snapping like a campfire along the shore. It smelled like the sea too. Then I looked to my right, and there was my dad. To his right, was my paternal grandmother. They both just smiled a sad smile which made me realize that I couldn't move. We were stuck standing in mud. I woke up after that. After breakfast, I didn't say anything until my dad and I were the only ones left at the table. I asked him if he had a dream last night. He described the exact same thing and he said he saw me too. Later on that day, my dad, who had checked in with my grandmother, said that she had the exact same dream. This is more WTF than scary strange. My wife was making spaghetti and needed sausage for the sauce. Me and my son go to the local grocery store to buy it. Now there are 2 stores in my little town. One is a nice new chain with overinflated prices and the other looks like something from the 70s. Dirty floors, bad lighting, and poor selections. It's depressing and a little creepy. But this is where we go. There is hardly anyone there, as always, and we head straight to the meat cooler in the back of the store. They don't have what my wife wanted, but there is a red button to call the butcher. I pushed the button and waited. At first, nothing happened. Then over the intercom we hear, "Mrs. Sausage, please come to the front. Mrs. Sausage to the front." My son starts laughing and asked if they are calling me Miss Sausage. I was equal parts amused and irritated. I'm the man, by the way. Then the door near the meat department swings open and out comes the manager. I've seen him before and he, just like this store, looks like something from the 70s. Brushed back hair, big mustache, 3 buttons on his shirt unbuttoned, gold chain, think of a redneck John Travolta. He walks to about 10 feet from us, stops, points at me and starts laughing. Then a customer comes from an aisle pushing a buggy and they both start laughing together and pointing. They were looking at each other and then back at me and my son. Laughing and laughing. It was weird to say the least. We just walked away and drove to the other store. Driving from Cancun to Merida at night. About 10 years ago. Middle of the road there's a huge pothole, so I swerve to avoid it. About 200 meters ahead notice a car's got its hazard lights on. It's parked on the side of the road, so I decided to stop and check to see if they needed help, thought it might have been a flat tire. I parked, approached the car, and as I got closer I saw what appeared to be 2 passengers in the back. There was no one in the driver's seat, and those 2 figures I had seen were mannequins with wigs and faces drawn with a marker or something. Just weird, to me at least. Can't rationalize the whole event. I once went to Panera with some friends. We got our food and sat down at the table. About halfway through the meal my friend says, "Did any of you guys notice that pole before?" I look next to the table and there is a huge floor-to-ceiling black pole literally almost touching me. I swear it was not there when we sat down, and at this point I'm freaking out and saying we're in an alternate universe. I get the attention of a woman who works at the Panera and ask her if she's noticed the pole before, and she looks at it genuinely baffled and says she hasn't. Went back a few weeks later and I swear to God it wasn't there. Still one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened to me. Okay, here is a story I posted previously. Once long ago, my family was in the front of the house, living room and kitchen, while I was in the back of the house, my bedroom. I went to the bathroom real quick, which was in between both my room and the front of the house, and was in the no longer than 60 seconds. By the time all the furniture in room had been rearranged. And I mean completely moved from one end of the room to the other. Now, this included a bed, my grandmother's old recliner, and a heavy wooden desk and some other odds and ends. Now the part that really makes it unexplainable was the fact that the recliner was blocking the only entrance into my room, and everyone was still in the front of the house. Not too crazy since I don't really remember feeling scared, but man was it the weirdest. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you liked today's video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for future videos. If you want more right now, click on one of the cards on the screen to watch another one of my videos. Thanks again for watching. Please stay safe everyone, until next time.